I crashed at my friend's place after a party, but his brother's presence changed everything. The bass from the club still echoed in my skull like a relentless migraine, and the taste of cheap tequila lingered on my tongue as I stumbled through the door of Alex's cramped Brooklyn walk-up. "Angel, man, you look like you got hit by a truck." Alex slurred from the couch, his arm slung around some girl whose name I'd already forgotten. But before I could collapse onto the lumpy futon, there he was, Dominic, Alex's older brother, silhouetted against the kitchen's harsh fluorescent light, nursing a black coffee like it was the only thing keeping him tethered to the world. His eyes met mine, dark and unreadable, and in that split second, the room tilted, the air thickened, and I knew this night wasn't ending with a blackout sleep. It was one of those humid August evenings in New York where the city felt alive and vicious, the kind that clings to your skin like regret. Alex and I had been thick as thieves since freshman year at NYU, two broke-ass kids from nowhere, chasing dreams in a city that chewed them up and spat them out. He was the straight-laced one, pre-med track, always dragging me to his family's brownstone in Park Slope for home-cooked meals that were really just excuses to mooch off his folks. I'd met Dominic a handful of times over the years, the prodigal son, 10 years older, fresh out of the Marines, back from some godforsaken deployment in the Middle East with a purple heart pinned to his chest like a scarlet letter. He was the ghost in family photos, the one Alex talked about in hushed tones. "Dom's got demons, man, but he's solid." I'd always nodded politely, uninterested. Brothers like that were off-limits, archetypes of straight, brooding masculinity that made my queer heart skittish. But tonight, Dominic wasn't a story. He was flesh and bone, leaning against the chipped Formica counter in faded jeans that hugged his thighs just right, a threadbare Yankees tee stretched across shoulders that spoke of push-ups in desert sand. His hair was buzzed short on the sides, longer on top, tousled like he'd run his hands through it one too many times. Scars, faint, silvery ones, peeked from his collarbone, and when he straightened up, extending a hand that swallowed mine whole, his grip was firm but his voice. God, his voice was gravel wrapped in velvet. "Angel, right? Alex won't shut up about you. Said you're the one who keeps him from flunking organic chem." His smile was crooked, lopsided, like it hurt to let it loose, and those hazel eyes, flecked with gold, held mine a beat too long. Heat flushed my cheeks, and I yanked my hand back, muttering something about needing water. Alex was already passed out by the time I emerged from the bathroom, the girl with him snoring softly. The apartment was a shoebox, peeling wallpaper, a fire escape rattling outside the window, the distant wail of an ambulance slicing through the night. I padded into the kitchen in socks, the linoleum cold underfoot, and there was Dominic again, staring out the window at the glowing skyline. He didn't turn, but he knew I was there, his shoulders tensed, that predator's instinct from years in the sandbox. "Can't sleep?" I asked, grabbing a glass from the drying rack. My voice came out smaller than I intended, laced with the awkwardness of a guy who just realized he was crashing in enemy territory. "Nah," he replied, low and rough. "Ghosts don't let you." He finally looked at me, and up close, the lines around his eyes were deeper, etched by things I could only imagine: IED blasts, buddies lost in the dust. But beneath that weariness was something alive, something hungry. We talked then, halting at first, about nothing and everything. The party's shitty DJ, Alex's latest girl troubles, the way New York felt like a pressure cooker ready to blow. I confessed my own mess. Bartending nights at some dive in Williamsburg to pay tuition, dodging my family's Bible Belt judgment calls from back in Texas. He listened, really listened, nodding like he got it, like the weight of unspoken expectations was an old friend. By 4 a.m., we'd polished off a six-pack, our knees brushing under the tiny table, and when he laughed, a real, belly-deep sound at my impression of Alex's pretentious study group, electricity shot up my spine. I wanted to touch him, to trace those scars and ask what broke him, but I swallowed it down. He was straight. Alex's brother. A straight line I couldn't cross. Dawn crept in, painting the kitchen in bruised purples and oranges, and Dominic stood to leave for his shift at the auto shop down in Red Hook. Crash here whenever. Angel, he said, clapping my shoulder, his palm warm, lingering. Alex needs someone to keep him straight. The double entendre hung there, unintended maybe, but it twisted in my gut like a knife. I watched him go, the door clicking shut behind him, and slumped against the wall, heart pounding. What the hell was that? A crush? A mistake? In the cold light of morning, with Alex's snores rattling the thin walls, it felt like the start of a storm, one that would drown us both. The next few weeks blurred into a haze of lectures, late shifts, and stolen moments that felt like theft. Alex, oblivious as ever, kept inviting me over, ranting about med school apps while I nursed hangovers and replayed that night in my head. Dominic was around more than I'd expected, home on leave between gigs, fixing up the old family Chevy in the driveway, or nursing a beer on the stoop with the neighborhood vets. He'd nod when he saw me, that half-smile flickering, but it was always quick, polite. Until the rainstorm hit, that freak downpour in early September that turned Brooklyn streets into rivers. I was soaked, trudging back from a disastrous blind date set up by my roommate, some finance bro who thought gay meant gym membership, when Alex texted, stuck at the library. Doors open. Beer in fridge. I let myself in, dripping on the welcome mat, and found Dominic in the living room, towel drying his hair after his own run-in with the weather. Jesus, kid, you look like a drowned rat, he chuckled, tossing me a dry towel from the couch. His own shirt clung to his chest, outlining every ridge of muscle, and I averted my eyes, focusing on the TV droning some ESPN highlight reel. We ended up watching the game Mets versus Phillies, a bloodbath, passing a joint he'd rolled with military precision. The smoke curled lazy between us, loosening tongues and inhibitions. You ever think about getting out? I asked, exhaling toward the ceiling fan. Of this city, away from the noise. He was quiet for a stretch, elbows on knees, staring at the screen like it held answers. Tried once. After the discharge. Packed a bag. Headed west, California, Oregon, whatever. But the road's just another cage if you're running from yourself. His voice cracked on the last word, and when he turned, his eyes were stormy. What about you, Angel? What's your escape plan? Or you one of those dreamers who thinks New York's gonna make you? I laughed. Bitter. Dreamer? Nah. I'm the idiot who thought coming out in high school was brave. Got disowned faster than you can say conversion therapy. Now I'm here, slinging drinks to phonies, pretending I'm fine. The words spilled out, raw and unfiltered, the weeds stripping my filters bare. Dominic didn't flinch. Instead, he reached over, his hand covering mine, rough calluses against my smooth skin, and squeezed. Hey, he murmured, thumb tracing my knuckles. That takes guts. More than I ever had. Time stretched, the rain hammering the windows like applause, and then he was closer, his breath warm on my neck. Our lips met, tentative, then fierce, a collision of need and denial. His stubble scraped my jaw, his hands fisting my shirt, pulling me onto his lap like I weighed nothing. It was messy, desperate, tasting of smoke and salt, and for those stolen minutes, the world outside ceased to exist. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together, and reality crashed back. Shit, he whispered, eyes wide with a mix of awe and terror. Angel. I've never. He trailed off, the unspoken with a guy hanging heavy. I nodded, heart splintering, and slipped off him, grabbing my wet jacket. It's cool, Dom. Rain check. I forced a grin, but as I bolted into the storm, tears mixing with the downpour, I knew it wasn't cool. It was a spark in a powder keg, and Alex's oblivious world was the fuse. Fall settled over Brooklyn like a heavy coat, leaves crunching underfoot in Prospect Park, the air crisp with the promise of change. But nothing changed for me, not really. Dominic and I danced around that kiss like it was a live grenade, our encounters loaded with subtext and sidelong glances. Alex, bless his straight boy heart, noticed nothing, too buried in cadaver dissections and frat parties to clock the tension crackling whenever Dominic walked into a room. I catch Dom watching me from across the dinner table, his fork paused mid-air, a flush creeping up his neck when our eyes locked. Once, while Alex was in the shower, Dominic cornered me by the fridge, his body heat radiating like a furnace. Last night, in the rain, he started, voice low, it wasn't a fluke. I can't stop thinking about you. His fingers brushed my wrist, sending shivers racing, but then the water shut off, and he pulled away, cursing under his breath. We stole what we could, late-night drives in that beat-up Chevy. Windows down, radio blasting Springsteen as we cruised the BQE. He'd park on some forgotten pier in Red Hook, the harbor lights twinkling like distant stars, and we'd talk for hours. Dominic opened up in fragments. The ambush in Fallujah that took his best friend's legs, the nightmares that jerked him awake in sweats, the way his ex-fiancée, some high school sweetheart named Riley, had bolted when the PTSD hit, calling him broken goods. She wanted the hero, he said one night, staring at the water black as ink. Not the wreckage. I told him about my own scars, not visible ones, but the kind that fester inside. The pastor father who prayed over me like I was possessed, the mother who sent care packages of reparative books, the hookups in college that left me hollower than before. You're not wreckage, Dom, I said, lacing my fingers through his. You're home. He kissed me then, slow and deep, like he was memorizing the shape of my mouth, his hands mapping my body with a reverence that made me ache. Sex came later, in fits and starts. The first time was in his truck. After a Yankees game, us crammed in the cab, the scent of hot dogs and beer mingling with desire. It was awkward, fumbling, zippers sticking, elbows knocking, but electric, his body moving over mine with a urgency born of years suppressed. He was gentle at first, whispering my name like a prayer, then lost, growling low as we chased release together. Afterward, tangled in the front seat, his head on my chest, he admitted it, always knew I was different. But the core? It beats that shit out of you. Don't ask. Don't tell. Hell, they made sure you didn't even think it. I held him tighter, stroking his back, feeling the ridges of old wounds. In those moments, he wasn't the tough Marine, he was just Dom, vulnerable and mine. But guilt gnawed at us like termites in the walls. Alex was family to both of us now, and every lie by omission felt like a brick in the wall we were building. He'd kill me, Dominic muttered one afternoon, as we lay spent in his childhood bedroom while Alex studied downstairs. The posters of Metallica and muscle cars stared down accusingly, the twin bed creaking under our weight. You're his best friend. It'd destroy him. I pushed up on an elbow, tracing the tattoo on his bicep, an eagle clutching a rifle, inked in a Baghdad parlor. Then what? We stop, pretend this never happened. Panic clawed my throat. These past weeks had been oxygen, pulling me from the brink of my own loneliness. He shook his head, pulling me close. Nah. But we gotta be smart. Careful. Careful turned to careless. Inevitably. It started small. A text sent to the wrong thread. Dom's hand lingering too long on my shoulder during a group hang at the local dive. The rusty nail. Alex raised an eyebrow once. You two getting chummy or what? But laughed it off, chalking it up to bro energy. I told myself we had time. That love like this, fierce, uncharted, could weather secrets. Dominic started talking future. A garage of his own in Queens, me finishing school, maybe a place together upstate where the air didn't choke you. You and me against the world. Angel, he'd say, eyes shining in the dark. Felt possible, that humanistic dream of redemption. Two broken boys forging something whole. Then came the conflict, sharp as shattered glass. It was Halloween weekend, the city pulsing with costumed chaos. Zombies and superheroes spilling from bars, the air thick with candy and cologne. Alex threw a rager at the apartment, inviting half the dorm and every vet from Dom's VFW post. I went as a vampire, cheap cape and fangs, but Dominic, he showed up in his dress blues, medals gleaming, a ghost from his past haunting the present. Heads turned, women flirted shamelessly, men clapped his back with reverence. I watched from the kitchen, nursing a solo cup of punch spiked with rum, jealousy twisting like a knife. He was magnetic, untouchable, and when Riley, his ex, sauntered in on some mutual friend's arm, all blonde waves and designer boots, the room spun. She was everything I wasn't. Polished, pedigreed, the girl who'd pinned his corsage at senior prom. They hugged, too long, her hand on his chest, and whispered, heads bent close. My stomach roiled. I bolted to the fire escape, gulping October air, the city lights blurring through unshed tears. Minutes later, Dominic found me, his uniform jacket slung over one shoulder. Angel. Wait. But I whirled. Fangs discarded. Cape askew. Who's that? Your fiancé? The one who ran when it got real. Venom laced my words. Born of fear, not fairness. He recoiled, hurt flashing. Riley? She's ancient history. Came with Jake from the post. It's nothing, but doubt seeded. And when Alex stumbled out, slinging an arm around Dom. Bro. Shots. I saw the fracture lines. Family first. Always. That night ended in shouts. Me accusing. Him defending. The party raging oblivious below. We made up in the alley behind the bar later, his mouth crashing into mine, hands rough with apology. But the seed took root, whispering of betrayals yet to come. As pumpkins rotted on stoops and All Saints approached, I wondered if our love was a costume too. Beautiful, fleeting, doomed to be shed come morning. Thanksgiving loomed like a family obligation none of us wanted, the air turning brittle with the threat of snow. Alex's folks insisted on the full spread, turkey in the brownstones' dining room, extended relatives crammed around the oak table, stories of Thanksgivings past laced with nostalgia and nitroglycerin. Dominic and I had settled into a rhythm. Coded glances over breakfast, quickies in the basement laundry room when the house emptied, texts that burned my pocket during lectures. "Miss your laugh," he'd send at 2 p.m., mid-shift at the shop. "Miss your hands," I'd reply, deleting furiously before Alex could glance over. It was intoxicating, this double life, romance wrapped in rebellion, but the cracks widened. Dom's nightmares worsened. I'd wake to him thrashing beside me in stolen overnights, murmuring apologies to ghosts. "Stay," I'd whisper, holding him until dawn, our bodies a bulwark against the dark. The holiday itself was a minefield. I was the token friend from school, tolerated for Alex's sake, plied with mashed potatoes and passive-aggressive questions about my career plans. Mrs. Hargrove, Evelyn, eyed me with that maternal radar, asking if I'd found a nice girl yet, her smile tight as her pearls. Mr. Hargrove grunted over football on the TV, a silent sentinel. Dominic sat across from me, tie loosened, looking every inch the golden boy returned, charming ants, carving the bird with surgical precision. But under the table, his boot nudged mine, a secret Morse code. "I'm here." Riley was there too, dragged by her parents, single again and radiant in a cashmere sweater. She flirted with Dom shamelessly, touching his arm during grace, laughing at his dry jokes like they were Shakespeare. I choked down green beans, while rising, forcing smiles when Alex nudged me. "Lighten up, dude. It's turkey, not torture." Dinner devolved into the annual slideshow, projections of Christmases and graduations, Dominic's boot camp photos flickering on the wall like propaganda reels. There he was, 18 and invincible, saluting in starched greens. The room cooed. I slipped out to the back porch, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands, the November chill biting through my flannel. Footsteps crunched gravel, Dom, escaping the fray. "You okay?" he asked, stealing the smoke, inhaling deep. I shrugged, exhaling smoke like frustration. "Just her. Riley. She's got history with you I can't touch." He stubbed the butt, turning me to face him, hands cupping my jaw. "History's dead, Angel. You're the now. The future." His kiss was fierce, defiant, tasting of cranberry and conviction, right there under the porch light where anyone could see. We didn't care, or we told ourselves we didn't. Love like ours was a middle finger to convention, humanistic in its raw honesty. But honesty has a price. The next week, Alex cornered me after class, his face stormy under the sodium lamps of Washington Square. "What's going on with you and Dom?" My blood froze. I played dumb. "What? We're cool, man." But he wasn't buying. "Saw you two on the porch. The way he looks at you. It's weird. Like, too intense." Panic surged. I laughed it off, blaming booze and holidays, but Alex's eyes narrowed. "Just Don't fuck with my brother, Angel. He's been through hell. Deserves better than some. Complication. The word hung, laced with unspoken homophobia, not malicious, but ingrained. The casual bigotry of a guy who loved me like a brother but saw my queerness as a glitch. I nodded, throat tight, and we parted with a bro hug that felt like goodbye. That night, Dominic and I fought our first real one in the cab of his truck, parked on a desolate stretch of Ocean Parkway. He knows something, I said, voice pitching high. Alex. We gotta tell him. Dom's jaw clenched, knuckles white on the wheel. Tell him? And what? Watch him choose sides. Lose everything. His words cut deep, echoing my own fears, but I pushed back. This secrecy's killing us, Dom. It's not love if it's a lie. He roared out of the lot, tires screeching, and dropped me at my dorm without a word. Days passed in radio silence. My texts unread, his shop phone going to voicemail. Desperation clawed. I showed up at the garage unannounced, grease-stained mechanics eyeing me as I waited in the office, heart hammering. He emerged at closing, coveralls unzipped to the waist, face a mask of exhaustion. Angel, but I cut him off, grabbing his arm. Don't. Just don't shut me out. We drove in silence to Coney Island. The boardwalk shuddered for winter, the cyclone's skeleton looming like a bad omen. There, on the sand whipped by wind, we broke open. He confessed the terror, not just of Alex, but of himself, the internalized shame from the military, the fear that loving me made him less man. I want this, he said, tears carving tracks down his dirt-smudged cheeks. You. But what if I'm poison? What if I drag you down? I pulled him to me, kissing salt from his lips. Then we rise together. That's what love does. It humanizes the mess. Reconciliation was sweet. Tentative, slow dances in his kitchen to Coltrane records. Mornings tangled in sheets that smelled of him. We planned the talk with Alex, scripting it like a play. Honest, compassionate, no blame. But fate, that cruel dramatist, had other acts. It was mid-December, strings of lights twinkling premature in the brownstone windows, when the betrayal landed like a sucker punch. I'd borrowed Alex's laptop for a paper. Innocent, or so I thought, leaving it open on the coffee table while I grabbed takeout. Dominic was at a VA meeting, Alex at the gym. But Riley was there, dropping off old photos for Evelyn, her laugh tinkling as she flipped through digital albums. I returned to find her at the desk, screen aglow, my deleted folder cracked open. Photos I'd snapped of Dom and me, candid and compromising. His head in my lap on that pier, our hands intertwined in the truck. Her face paled, then twisted shock to disgust in a heartbeat. What the fuck is this? She hissed. But I snatched the laptop, stammering denials. Too late. She bolted, purse clutched like a shield, and I knew. Texts would fly, whispers would spread. By evening, the storm hit. Dominic came home to Alex's tirade, shouts echoing down the stairs, accusations flying like shrapnel. My best friend? With you? You're fucking kidding me. I hovered in the hall, unseen, heart in my throat. Dom's voice cracked. It's real, Alex. I love him. Silence. Then a crash, glass shattering. Love? You're ruined. Both of you. Alex stormed out, slamming the door, leaving Dominic slumped against the wall, bloodied knuckles from punching drywall. I rushed to him, but he shrugged me off. Go, Angel. It's too much. Betrayal burned. Not just Alex's rage, but Dom's retreat, the walls slamming up higher than before. As snow flurried outside, blanketing the city in white, our world fractured, the romance we'd built teetering on the edge of abyss. Christmas Eve dawned gray and unforgiving, the kind of Brooklyn winter that seeps into your bones and stays. The brownstone was a war zone, Evelyn fluttering with forced cheer, baking gingerbread to mask the tension. Mr. Hargrove retreating to his den with a bottle of scotch and Fox News. Alex had vanished after the blowout, crashed at a buddy's in Manhattan, radio silent to me, terse texts to the family, need space. Dominic and I tiptoed around each other, the air thick with unspoken recriminations. We should have told him sooner, I said that morning, nursing coffee black as my mood. He nodded, eyes hollowed by lack of sleep. Yeah. My fault. Always charging ahead. Damn the fallout. But beneath the blame was fear, visceral, choking, the dread that one confession had unraveled the fragile threads holding us. Riley's role festered like an open wound. She'd spilled to her parents, who spilled to Evelyn over eggnog, and now the house hummed with pitying glances and loaded silences. Such a shame, an aunt murmured at the holiday brunch, her voice carrying like smoke. Dominic always seemed so normal. I wanted to scream, to shatter the crystal punch bowl and demand they see us, not as scandal, but as human. Two men daring to love in a world that still flinched at the sight. Instead, I endured, smiling through carols, my hand brushing Dom's under the table, a lifeline in the storm. The climax crested that night, under a sky spitting sleet. Alex returned, unannounced, bursting through the door with cheeks flushed from cold and fury. The family was gathered in the living room, stockings hung, tree twinkling, when he locked eyes on us, Dominic and me side by side on the couch. You, he snarled, pointing at me. Out. Now, Evelyn gasped. Mr. Hargrove rose, but Dom was faster, stepping between us. Alex, cool it. We talked this out, like family, but Alex laughed, bitter and broken. Family? You're screwing my best friend, bro. Behind my back. How long? Months? While I'm spilling my guts to you both. The room shrank, relatives averting eyes, the fire crackling mockingly. I stood, throat dry. Alex, it wasn't like that. We didn't plan. But he cut me off, advancing. Save it. I trusted you, Angel. Thought you were solid. But this? It's betrayal. Pure. His words landed like blows, echoing the disownment I'd fled in Texas. The sting of love conditional, love revoked. Dominic shoved him back, gently but firm. Enough. Yeah. We hid it. Scared shitless of this exact moment. But I love him, Alex. More than I've loved anything since the war. The admission hung, raw and revolutionary, and for a heartbeat, Alex faltered, hurt cracking his armor. Love? You don't get to call it that. Not when it's ripping us apart. The fight spilled outside. Brothers grappling in the snow-dusted yard. Words as weapons. You left me to pick up the pieces after Dad's heart attack, Alex yelled. And now this, turning our home into some freak show. Dom reeled, face ashen. Freak show? That's Mom's church talking, not you. I fought for this country, for your freedoms. And you can't handle me loving who I love. Punches flew then. Not hard, but enough to draw blood. Knuckles splitting on jaws. The sleet turning crimson rivulets on their shirts. I waded in, pulling them apart, my own tears freezing on lashes. Stop, please, this isn't you. Neighbors' lights flicked on, curtains twitching, the American dream fracturing under holiday facade. In the aftermath, the house emptied, relatives murmuring goodbyes, Evelyn sobbing in the kitchen. Alex stormed to his room. Dominic and I patched wounds in the bathroom, peroxide stinging like accusations. He's right, Dom whispered, dabbing my split lip. I betrayed him. Us hiding. It made this uglier. I cupped his face, thumbs brushing bruises blooming purple. No. Fear did this. But we can fix it, talk, heal. Humanely, he nodded, but doubt shadowed his eyes. The war's ghosts whispering louder now. The betrayal deepened days later. On New Year's Eve. Dom vanished. Phone off. Truck gone. Panic clawed. I scoured the shop. The VFW. Even the pier where we'd first kissed. Alex, thawing slightly, admitted he went to Riley's. Said he needed clarity. My world tilted. Clarity? With her? I raced to her parents' place in Cobble Hill, a McMansion aglow with party lights, and there he was on the porch, her arms around him, lips brushing his cheek in that old, familiar way. Time fractured. I froze in the shadows, heart shattering like ice under boots. He hadn't seen me, too lost in her murmurings, her hand on his chest where mine had been. Betrayal, double-edged. Not just the hiding, but his retreat to safety, to the straight narrative that promised absolution. I confronted him at dawn, waiting in the truck's cab when he pulled up to the brownstone, reeking of her perfume and regret. Angel, he started, but I was fire. Clarity? Is that what you call running back to her? Erasing us? Tears streamed. He reached, but I flinched. It wasn't. She gets it. The family thing. No drama. Panicked. Okay. After the fight, with Alex hating me, his voice broke, pleading. I don't want her. I want you. But this, it's destroying everything. Rage boiled over. Then choose. Dom. Me or the easy out. Silence stretched. Eternal. And when he whispered, I can't lose him, the choice was made. I walked away, into the rising sun, the city awakening indifferent to our ruin. January in New York is a brutal editor, stripping illusions bare, leaving only what's essential or nothing at all. I holed up in my Williamsburg sublet, a shoebox studio with radiator hisses and walls thin as resolve, dodging calls from Alex, from Evelyn's pitying voicemails. Come for dinner, dear. Family heals. Dominic's texts came in waves, apologies, please, fragments of poetry he'd never voiced. You're the light I didn't know I needed. I deleted them unread, each one a fresh cut, the betrayal festering into numbness. Classes blurred. Shifts at the bar became autopilot, slinging IPAs to hipsters who mistook my pallor for artistic brooding. Friends, queer chosen family from the campus GSA, rallied, dragging me to drag brunches and therapy circles, reminding me, you're worthy, Angel. Don't let one storm define you. Spring thaw brought tentative greens to the parks, and with it, reconciliation's fragile shoots. Alex showed up at the bar one rainy April night, trench coat dripping, face gaunt from exams and exile. "Can we talk?" he asked, sliding onto a stool. I poured him a whiskey neat on the house, and we sat in the dim glow of neon signs, the jukebox crooning Billie Holiday. "I was an asshole," he started, staring into amber. "Freaked out. Yeah. But not because of, the gay thing. It was the lie. Felt like you both stole my brother, my anchor." Honesty cracked him open. He admitted his own fears, med school pressures, Dad's quiet disapproval of his soft career path. Dom's always been the strong one. Seeing him vulnerable with you humanized him. Scared the shit out of me. We hugged then, awkward but real. The first bridge mended. "He's a mess without you," Alex added. "Go easy on him." Dominic and I met on neutral ground, that Coney Island boardwalk, now alive with tourists and the cyclone screams. He looked wrecked, thinner, shadows under eyes, hands shoved deep in hoodie pockets. "Riley was a mistake," he said, voice raw. "A panic attack, not a choice. I told her, told everyone, I'm gay. For you." The admission hung, seismic, his marine armor shed. We walked the planks, waves crashing below, and he spilled the therapy sessions at the VA, coming out to Evelyn over tea, her tears turning to hugs. Even Mr. Hargrove's gruff, "As long as you're happy, son." Betrayal's echo lingered. I chose wrong that night. Chose fear over us. But forgiveness bloomed, slow and steadfast. "We both did," I said, taking his hand. "But love's not a battlefield. It's rebuilding after the blast." The climax's ashes yielded growth. Summer hummed in, sticky and hopeful. We moved slow, coffee dates, park picnics, relearning trust. Dominic opened the garage in Queens, Hargrove's haven, a nod to sanctuary. I graduated NYU, diploma in hand, eyes on grad school for social work, channeling our mess into mending others. Alex became reluctant wingman, teasing us over beers. "Just don't make me officiate the wedding." Romance reignited. Deeper now, lazy Sundays in bed, rooftop stargazing where the city felt vast, not confining. One August dawn, echoing our first night, we stood on that Brooklyn roof, arms entwined, skyline awakening. "Marry me?" he murmured, a simple band glinting in his palm, silver, scarred like us. Tears pricked. I nodded, kissing him fierce. Yes. 1,000 times. Our ending wasn't fairy tale, no grand gestures, just humanistic grit. Two men, flawed and fierce, choosing each other daily amid the American churn. Betrayal scarred, but it taught mercy. Conflict forged resilience. Love, in its romantic tangle, proved redemptive. As fireflies danced in the humid air and distant sirens wailed life's underscore, we held on, not to perfection, but to the messy, profound beauty of being seen. In the shadows of desire, we'd found our light.